Stop copying and pasting code. If you want to make a game with 50 different enemies, you don't need 50 completely different scripts. I'm going to show you how to write code once, and then use it to spawn an army of unique droids. Welcome back to Godot Dev Checkpoint. Today we aren't just writing scripts, we're building an architecture. We're going to build a Droid Factory. And thank you to our new Patreon member, Elon. Your support helps keep the lights on. Now let's open up Godot 4.6 and get to work. First, we need to understand what a class actually is. Think of a class as a blueprint. A blueprint for a house isn't the house itself. You can't live in the paper, but you can use that one blueprint to build 10 identical houses. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder, right-click our root folder in our file system, create new folder. We're going to name this folder scripts. In the scripts folder, we're going to right-click, create new script. We're going to call it Droid. Great. And we're going to delete all of this boilerplate. We don't need it. Up on top here, what we want to do is write class name. I'm going to call this class name Droid. Now this class name Droid line is the magic. It tells Godot, hey, this isn't just a script file anymore. This is a global type called Droid. And you're going to be able to now use this Droid anywhere in your project, just like you use Node or Sprite 2D. So in this class, what we're going to have is a variable, a serial number for a droid, and it's going to be of type string. And we're just going to set it initially to x-000, just a base default name. And then we're going to have a battery level for our droid. I'll set that base level to a type int of 100, so fully charged. Now, when we build our droid, we're going to initialize it with the initialize function underscore init. And you can tab to autocomplete. But we're going to add a parameter here in the parentheses called new serial. So we're going to change the serial number and give them all unique serial numbers. It's going to be of type string. Perfect. Enter down into the function. And then we're going to set the serial number to the new serial number. So then the serial number we pass into this initialize is going to become this droid's new serial number. Enter down, and then we're going to have a print statement for the output. It's going to be droid space, comma, serial number, comma, another quotations, has been assembled. So this is going to say the droid, and it's going to take the serial number that's been assigned to it and say it has been assembled. Now, a robot needs to do something. Let's give our droid a job. Now, still in our droid script here, I'm going to enter down a couple times, create a new function. I'll call this function perform task. No underscore. In the beginning, it's going to be a return type, void. So we're not going to return anything. And in this, we're going to have a battery level that we're going to minus, saying this task has been performed. Now let's take some battery away. We're going to take 10 battery away, so 10%. And then we're going to print in the output the serial number of our droid, comma, quotation, colon, space. We're going to say idling, 1, 2, 3, battery, at, comma, after the string. We're going to pass in the battery level, and then we're going to add a percentage sign at the end. There we go. And then a parenthesis. Make this bigger so you see it. There we go. Save the script. Now this class can be the default behavior for any generic droid. Now to highlight the parameters in this print statement here, so it can be a little confusing sometimes. Now this is the safe mode for printing. If you tried to use the plus signs instead of these commas, well, this wouldn't work. It'd actually crash. As you can see here, you can't actually just put an int into a strict language like GDScript. So the only way you can do this is you actually have more syntax with the str, and then take this battery level. And if you highlight it, you can press the parenthesis, and then it puts parentheses around it, and then it's okay to print just like this. However, instead of doing it so much like this, A lot less syntax just to use a comma. So when you use commas, Godot says, I got you. It automatically converts those numbers into text. It stitches everything together into one nice debug message. In strictly typed languages like GDScript, this throws an error because it's ambiguous. It's addition versus concatenation. And this just saves us from having to type string every time. Now, a quick side note, you might be wondering why init has an underscore, but our perform task does not. Well, in Godot, an underscore at the start of a function name, like init or ready even, usually means it's a life cycle function, which means Godot calls it automatically for you. You don't have to tell the droid to init. The engine's going to do it for us the moment that this droid is born. Functions without the underscore are custom. Those are the ones we have to trigger manually in our code. Now you've reached a checkpoint. I want you to add a function called recharge, and it should set the battery level back to 100 and then print a message saying the droid is fully charged. Now if you want to try this without the hint, go ahead and pause now and give it a try. And for those who might be a little stuck, that's okay. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. What we need here is we're going to create the recharge function, and then we're going to set the battery level to 100. And then we're going to print a message saying the droid is fully charged. And that's it. If you want to take a look at the perform task function here, it can help you out quite a bit. Go ahead and pause now and give it a try. All right, hopefully you gave that a try. What we're going to do here is I'm going to create the recharge function. It's going to be function recharge. That's going to return nothing, so it's going to be a void. It's not going to take any parameters in, so we're good there. Now we want to set the battery level to 100. So we're going to take the battery level, and we're going to equal that to 100. And then we want to have a print statement saying, hey, we're fully charged. So we're going to take our serial number of the droid that we're saying anything about, comma, separate, quotation, colon, and then recharged to full power. Perfect. And that's it. Then save the script. Now, the key takeaway here is classes hold both data, variables, and actions, functions. They are self-contained packages. Now we need a security droid. We could copy the code from droid.gd, but that's messy. Instead, we're going to use inheritance. I'm going to make this smaller. Then in my scripts folder, we're going to right click and then create new script. We're going to call this script Security Droid. There we go. Create. Now in our security droid here, get rid of this boilerplate code here. And then instead of extending node, we're going to extend droid. And because we write extends droid, this new script automatically has the serial number and the battery level and all the functions in droid itself without having to write them in the droid script itself. Right, now above this extends droid, we're actually going to make this a class name as well. And this is going to be our security droid. Right, and then below extends, I'm going to actually add some laser power in case our security droid needs to secure things. Type int, make it 50. Now we're going to do something called overriding functions. So I'm going to enter down a couple times. I'm going to write the function perform task. If you see, it actually will autocomplete because we have this in our droid function. We're going to write this function as well. And in this function, we're actually going to use a keyword called super, which basically means do the things in the droid class that the perform task already does. So back to droid, it's going to do all this stuff before it does anything else. So we use super.perform task. So I'm just calling that function basically. Droid, call this function, do this stuff. And then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to do anything else, which for this guy, I'm going to say the serial number which I have access to because I extended droid, comma, I'm going to say scanning for intruders. Intruders, yeah, I spelled that right. If I find them, pew pew. There we go. So this, once again, the super.perform task is just calling that function to do the basics. So we're going to do the default droid stuff, which is drain battery. Because once again, go back to droid, this perform task does not have an underscore. So in order for this to run, we have to call it, which we're doing here. So once we drain the battery, we drain the battery because we're scanning for intruders. So now we know the super actually calls our parent version of the function. So we still drain the battery, and then we can actually add in some logic to blast the lasers. For now, we're just going to do the print statement. In the future, you can actually use this laser power for something else. Now, a common question is, I want to attach this script to a character body 2D so it can move. Can I extend that as well? Well, the answer is single inheritance. You can only pick one parent. You cannot say extends droid and character body 2D, but we can use something called a chain. Now, if we go back to droid.gd and change the first line to extends character body 2D, so back in our droid script, and under class name, we can say extends character body 2D. Then save that. So now because security droid extends droid, it inherits everything droid has, which now includes all the physics and movement from its parent, which is the class stuff in droid and character body 2D. It's a package deal. So the droid gets a serial number from droid and the move and slide functions from character body 2D. For example, if I go back to security droid and under here, just for testing, we're going to delete this, but just to look at it, a function, the move and slide is in the physics process. If I enter there, type in move and slide, you can see it auto-completed, and I can save that, and I have that in my security droid now. But if I go back to droid, and then I get rid of this character body 2D, and then I save it, notice then we'll get an error saying move and slide not found in base self, because this does not have access to character body 2D anymore. And for example, we cannot do this. That's not a thing. So you have to only extend one thing. If you want to chain things, it has to come from above, so the parent. I'm going to delete this, save the script. Now there's an alternative method. It's a little more intermediate, but it's called the brain method. Now, if you don't want every droid to be a physics object, maybe some are just UI data, you would keep the droid as a data class and just use something called composition. So what is composition? Well, script A would be droid, which has the data, the health, and the name. And script B, your security droid. When we change that, I'll comment this out here real quick. And then we extends character body 2D in here. And then we can enter down. And how do we get this perform task back? Well, what we have to do is do something called a link, which is creating a variable, base droid stats. It's going to be of type droid. It's going to equal droid.new. And you'll notice we need to actually put in an argument. If we go in our droid, what the initialize is looking for is a string. So what's the droid's name? So initializing, we just put in an empty string. So just quotation marks. That solves that. And then we would have to copy this base droid stats and put it instead of super. Base droid stats perform task instead of serial number, base droid task or stats dot serial number. And that's how we would access that. I'll go and keep it the way we had it. More cleaner, I think, and actually is more readable in the end. And if we do it that way, we'll have to change how we're doing it in our next part. So we'll do it just this way in the end. It just shows there's multiple ways to do things. I'm going to save that, how we had it. Our class name droid, a class name security droid, and we're going to extend droid and use the super keyword and then use it just like that. But that is composition. Now we have the blueprints. Now let's build the factory and actually spawn them. All right, now we're just going to create a standard 2D scene. I'm going to rename the node 2D. We're going to create a factory. I'm going to attach a script to this factory. And then we're going to put it in a scripts folder, not the root folder. Double click the scripts, open, then create. I'm going to get rid of the process function. We don't need that. And then in the ready function, we'll use that. What we're going to do first is create a basic droid. How do we do that? We're going to put in a variable worker type droid, which is going to equal droid.new, just like we kind of saw earlier. We're going to name this droid. We'll name it W101. Perfect. Now we're going to create a security droid. I have two different kinds of droids. And then it's going to be the guard. But it's still going to be of type droid. Because since security droid extends droid, it is still a normal droid. And that'll be important in just a second. So equals security droid. And we're going to make a new one. We're going to name this Security Droid 900. There we go. So we have our worker and our security droid. So now what we're going to do is put these droids in an array. Put them in an array. How we're going to use factory units. These are our factory units in the factory. So all of our droids, and it's going to be of type array. And in this array is going to be droid. And the droids we're going to put in the array are, well, the ones we just made, the worker and the guard. So since our security droid extends droid, this array only has to be of type droid. Doesn't care if it's a security droid, as long as it's a droid. Now we have our array. Well, let's run them all so we can see them in our output. And how do we do that? Well, we use a for loop, for, and all the unit in factory units. Let's go through the array. And when it does, well, we're just going to perform the task. Unit perform task. So that's our custom function. So our regular droid is going to do perform task here in the base class. And in our security droid, it's going to perform task here, which does the basic one, but also the extra stuff we put in there. Great. So in our factory, going to save that. We're going to save this factory scene. Right click, new folder, scenes folder. So it's good to stay organized. And then we're going to call it factory. Save. Right. Now you press F6 or run the current scene here and start. And now you see here, the droid 101 has been assembled. Droid S900 has been assembled. 101 is idling, battery is at 90%. Idling, battery at 90%. Because they both performed a task. And this one actually, the security bot scanned for intruders, found one, keep beep. Notice the magic there. The array that's typed array droid, but we put a security droid inside it. Well, that's called polymorphism. The factory doesn't care what kind of droid it is, as long as it is a droid. Then it can call perform task. So to recap, we created a class name to define a global type. We used extends to inherit all that functionality into a specialized version. And we used super to keep the original logic while adding new flavor. Now to take this further, we could take these script-only classes and turn them into resources so we can edit their stats in the inspector without writing code. We can make them visual in a 2D or 3D atmosphere. Then you let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see in a future video, or do it yourself, and I would love to see your results. Now, if you found this helpful at all or fun, leave a comment on what your Godot game dev goals are. And please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really helps out the channel. And thank you to all our current and past Patreon and Coffee members. Your generous support keeps the channel moving. Now, if you want early access to tutorials, source code, or suggesting future tutorials, please consider becoming a member yourself. The links are in the description. I am Spaghetti Syntax, and remember, always stay curious, and I'll see you at the next checkpoint.